Alchemy and a Cup of Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This is the fourth and final book in the Tea and Tome series. It has finally come to an end. This is a good ending for the series. It very much fits in with the rest of the books. Same tone, same characters. I think this is really the first book where we don't get introduced to a bunch of new characters. I guess we do, actually. I guess there is like a new villain for this book. We do get some new settings. Like, we get to go see the Seeing Stone and like the mage's college. Is that what it's called? The magical university. I'm just thinking of Oblivion terms. I just play a lot of Elder Scrolls and now I can't remember what it's called in this book. So, the Mages Guild. We get to go see where Kianth studied and is supposed to be because she's the Arcandor Mage of Ages. There's a problem with the Seeing Stone, which is pretty cool, and like the magic and how all of the different types of magic in this universe get sort of tied together, and that gets explored, which is like sort of a religious element. I think there were more religious elements in the third book than in this fourth book, but like we get some of that, some inklings. It's just some more like lore and background for this universe, which is cool. I liked seeing that. We find the last dragon. So in the second book, they were on a quest for a bunch of dragon eggs, and I completely forgot because I forgot everything about these books between reading them. But I forgot that we were missing one of the dragon eggs, but it's hatched by now, so we find a dragon. That's a good scene. It made me feel something, but I kind of didn't like it because it's the dragon is like tied up magically and is like being restrained and they're like hurting it, and it's just a poor baby animal that's being hurt and it doesn't have its family and it's never been with other dragons and is lost and confused, and it's really sad scene. But they free the dragon. It's okay. The dragon's okay. And then we get some really cute scenes with that dragon. Meeting the other dragons, meeting like the other hatchlings from the eggs that we did find. And then meeting the griffin. Ponder's here again. Ponder, the baby griffin, who's like a big sister griffin to all the little dragons now. That's cute. The animals in this are really cute. I said that in the third book review that I did. I really like the cute little animals. And I think those were well written because they made me feel something. Even though I just don't like seeing animals in books. Because sometimes, like, you're always worried something's gonna happen to the animal. And, like, the animals are fine. This is a cozy fantasy book. Nothing bad is going to happen to the animals. But, like, something bad happened to the animals, but, like, it gets okay. It's okay. The animal's gonna be okay. But I always get, like, too attached when I see animals in fiction. Or, like, in a TV show. They show a cat, and I'm like, oh no, now I have to worry about the cat. But it's a cozy fantasy, so you don't actually have to worry. I will say, though, that there's been some debate around the series about whether or not it's actually cozy fantasy. I do think the first book in the series is the most cozy of the fantasies, where they really settle down and start this tea shop. And by this fourth book, I mean, Kianth is still the Mage of Ages, the Arcandor, and, like, she's got big problems to address with, like, all of their magic being in jeopardy or at stake for some reason. Basically, all of the magic is in jeopardy. And, of course, Rhaena's now the queen. We do get some of that. I guess we don't get, like, a lot of that. But, I mean, we do. We do get some of that. She is the queen. She's sort of very different than the last queen, so she's not, like, ruling over everything all the time where everyone has access to her in a central location. But, you know, they've got big titles, and they're doing a lot of things, and they're on a dragon quest, and they're fighting a new bad guy. There's a lot of action in this. So this one is definitely not cozy. Most of it doesn't take place in the Tomes and tea shop. So this is one of the least cozy of the series, but I still found it entertaining. I don't know, I didn't read this because it's a cozy fantasy. I just like fantasy books with lesbians in them, and this fits the bill. But I think it's pretty par with like the second and third books in terms of action. You know, the first book's a little less action-y because they're settling down and trying to be normal people. And in this book, they're like, we are not normal people, but we still like having normal lives. And they're still in the town, but now the queen lives in this town, so we have an immigration storyline about all of these tourists coming to see the tea shop where the queen works. And also people wanting to move there and like the town expanding, but they don't necessarily have the resources right away. And it's this whole big deal, and like the roads aren't prepared for it. So we have an immigration storyline, I guess, sure. There's a lot going on in this for being the last book of a series. But, like, in a good way. Like, something's always happening. It's a good pace. It's a good fast-paced series overall. And so, you know, you're entertained, and you know it's gonna work out. And it does, and it's cute. You get some more of the two characters I was interested in. The relationship I was most interested in was the two Diarns? I've forgotten everything about this. The non-binary mage, not mage, alchemist, and the other dude. That guy. Theo, and that other guy. I thought they'd get like a really, really big romance arc in this fourth book, because that's been the slow burn romance of the series, where they're like kind of butting heads in the first book, and then, you know, you see them spending time together more and more in the background because they aren't the main characters, but every time we go see those characters, they're like strangely together or hanging out, you know, and it's like, oh, there's definitely a romance there, but they're kind of hush-hush about it. I was expecting a little more payoff from that, but it's kind of just the same thing, where they're sort of more and more together in the background as it goes on. You get some of them. You get Serena and Bobby in the epilogue, which are not my favorite characters. I'm gonna be honest. I think that's a pretty common opinion, that not everyone loves Serena and Bobby. They were really big characters in the second book, and then in the third book, I think everyone was glad to see them not very much. They get sent on a side quest over there where we don't have to pay attention to them, and that's kind of what happens in this book, except not really, because they're just literally not in it until the end, where the author was like, oh, I have to do something for them and wrap them up. So they get an epilogue. The epilogue is all about them, and them maybe getting engaged, except they're like fighting the whole time, and they've been fighting this whole series, so like, I was like, I don't know that they should get engaged, to be honest. But, you know, whatever. They're there if you like them. And if you don't like them, they're only in the end, so that's fine. But that was a good amount of them for me, anyway, because I didn't really care about them, but I did want to see their story wrapped up, because they were a major part of the second book, and they are crucial characters to the series overall. But I did like that this was focused on Kianth and Reyna, like the third book is. I think the author realized that those two characters are the crux of the series, and it needs to be focused mostly on them, which it is. What else did we got? I don't know why I'm just recapping the plot. Maybe so I remember, even though it's over. I'm gonna forget this immediately. Not entirely. I still remember a good amount of this. It's a good little cozy fantasy series, with a little less cozy than some of the other cozy fantasy series. If you want a fantasy, but you don't want, like, incredibly high stakes. Or there's high stakes and, like, action and dragons and drama, but you know it's going to work out really well, and no one's going to be, like, seriously injured. We're not going to be killing off main characters here. It's really lighthearted. They make a bunch of puns. There's a little bit fewer puns in this one than in the third book, which was good, because they started to get on my nerves, and I'm someone who likes puns, so I can't imagine what you people who don't like puns were going through reading some of the lines in this series. There's a few, like, right away in this, and they're, like, back to back, and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm tired, man. But that's just the quirk of the character. The characterization is consistent across all of these books. I think the tone's very consistent across all the books. Again, some of the action maybe varies between the first book and the rest of the series, but even the first book has a fair amount of action compared to something like Legends and Lattes, which this was inspired by blatantly. So it's not like crazy different. If you loved the first book, you're not gonna hate the rest of the books in the series. If you do dislike the second book because it has too much focus on other characters, the third and fourth books aren't like that. I think this was a solid ending, sticks to the landing tonally. These characters end up where you think they'll end up in a way that feels good for the characters, good for the arcs, good for all the side characters. Cute moments, good times, fun action, entertaining. Yeah, I have this. It's cool. I think I said in my third book review that this was the first physical arc I ever got. That's actually not true, but I didn't realize that. I had a physical arc years before this that I didn't even realize was an arc, because I don't think I knew what arcs were at that point. But this is the first sapphic arc I ever had for the first book in the series, so that was really cool. Physical arc, anyway. So this series holds a special little place in my heart, where I won a free book, and so I was therefore emotionally invested for years. I do think it's time to end, though. You know, I like this series. I wasn't, like, in love with it. It's not my favorite series of all time. I don't think it's the most unique thing ever. Again, it is heavily inspired by just the cozy fantasy genre, the success of books like Legends and Lattes. So, you know, it's good, but is it earth-shattering, awe-inspiring, totally aspirational? Not particularly, but it's a solid series, and I enjoyed it, and I'm very glad that I read it. And I know Rebecca Thorne has another book called This Gilded Abyss that looks really good, that I'm definitely gonna read. That one's not a cozy fantasy, I don't think. I don't know what it's about, because I famously do not read descriptions. I just see two women on the cover of a book, and I'm like, yes, I will read that. So yeah, I do recommend the series. I probably recommend the author. I assume that book's going to be in a similar stylistic tone. Again, maybe not, like, funny, maybe not as lighthearted, or maybe it is, who knows? I don't know. I just told you that I have no idea what that's about. But yeah, good series, good writer, good book, good time. Just a good time.